welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie, and this is the Knit Up and Dye podcast, episode 48. You only have to imagine it. Back in the studio. I'm taking a break from dyeing for 1 week, which is really, really nice because I have been dyeing every weekend for months now, and I have great things to talk about today. Great things to talk about. First, of course, I want to give a special thank you to all of my subscribers, both new and ongoing. I love you guys, and this is ultimately about you. I'm always looking for feedback and for information about what you'd like to see. Please reach out and contact me. I have a list of hellos as usual, so let's get on it. Hello to Diane, Ezra's, 702 Knitting Dork from Las Vegas. I love your name. Bex, Sticky Stitch, another great name. Charlotte, Crystal, Melissa, I have an answer for you. Kylin, Caroline, Marie, great suggestion, thank you Marie. Betty Ann, Scott, John, Gertrude, I have an answer for you. David, Sonia, Carolyn, Kate, Nancy, and Rachel. Sorry, I'm using my list. I know that was like crazy awkward, but hello to all of you. I love you all, and you mean the world to me. Your messages are fantastic. Thank you. Speaking of the messages, Marie had a fantastic suggestion. She wrote in talking about drying the skeins really quickly, drying the blanks really quickly in order to move on. Either drying them to complete the drying or drying them to get them to a point where I can stencil on them. And she suggested using a salad spinner. Brilliant. It acts like a spin dryer and it doesn't agitate your fabric, so you don't have to worry about that yarn felting. You don't have to worry about ending up with a felted scarf if you're doing a blank. I have seen mechanical versions of them that you can put a bunch of skeins into, and she's right, that's perfect. I never thought of getting a small salad spinner just to do a couple skeins at a time or to do a blank at a time. That's definitely something that I'm considering adding to my pile of equipment. And she's right that there's often salad spinners at charity shops, so pop on in and get a $2 salad spinner and get that blank dyed up. Marie had sorry, that was Marie. Thank you, Marie. Gertrude had a wonderful question. She wanted to know if I add guar gum to the dye that I use in the airbrush. Yes. I use 1 dash of guar gum in my airbrush mix. I use 2 dashes in my stencil mix. The airbrush is used to using thinned paint. I don't know how thin. I've never worked with an airbrush before this application. But thickening the dye towards paint, but nowhere near paint. It works well in the airbrush. I found that when it was just the water base, it was a little too wet and drippy. Thickened up slightly, it sprays beautifully, and further, once it's on the fabric, because it's thicker, it's not bleeding. We use that thickener, we use the citric acid in combination with each other to get a dye application that's not bleeding. So yes, I do add some to the airbrush mix. Really have to whip that down, really have to make sure there's no chunks in it at all, otherwise it will block your airbrush. Melissa. I'm sorry guys, I've got this crazy list that I'm following down through, and I hope this doesn't seem too disconnected, but I want to make sure that I hit all my points this week. So Melissa, I have not forgotten. I found the solution, and I found it in a dream. What am I talking about? So, episodes back, I showed you how to do an infinite longtail cast on. And the infinite longtail cast on prevents you from having to pre-measure out to your starting point before you do your cast on. Simply by using both ends of the skein and doing like a slip knot and then casting on from there, so that you can't run out, you can't short tail yourself, you just get it all cast on. And Melissa contacted me, and Melissa said, you know, great, this is brilliant. However, I need one that's easy to join in the round and doesn't end up with all these tails. And she's right. When you do the infinite longtail cast on by that method, you end up with these extra tails because you've done the slip knot at the beginning. So now there's 2 tails there instead of with the longtail cast on only 1 tail. I thought about this a lot. I did research. I pulled out the principles of knitting, the knitting Bible. This beast has an answer to just about anything with knitting techniques. And there wasn't a good answer there. And I think that's because right now in this industry, we are advancing leaps and bounds. And that sounds strange. It sounds ignorant because knitting's been around forever. But all of a sudden we're doing a lot of new stitches and a lot of new techniques. And this book is an updated and revised, and it's a publication. In the digital age where we are sharing ideas and information so quickly about twig stitches and double knitting in these beautiful techniques, charting even is relatively new when you think about it, that I just think that someday this will be in here, and it's in here, the answer's in here, it's just in pieces. So anyway, I knit all these swatches and I've been thinking about this just kind of back burner. And Melissa, thank you. I love puzzles and I love working to solve them and having just something to play with my brain for a while. And this was great. So here I was one night not sleeping well, and I was thinking about how to do this, where I have 2 yarns, technically 2 ends of the same skein if you're doing it that way. And I'm doing this slip knot. Let's do it real quick here. Worst demonstration ever. So you do a quick slip knot and you end up with a loop and 2 tails. And then you do your cast on from there. Let's see if I can span this out like this. So you've got these 2 tails no matter what you do. And I'm thinking about this. Well, you know, what if you did it this way? What if you did it that way? What if you just wove them in? How do you get that seamless in the round join? And then I realized that it's about the join. When we do that slip knot, we create those 2 tails. However, there are several other ways to join these 2 yarns that don't end up in tails. If we do a felted join of the ends, then we have an infinite loop to do our cast on with. Even if you did a Russian join and ran it through, and do check my previous episodes, I do have a demonstration of both the felted join and the Russian join. If you do the Russian join, you still end up with that infinite line to cast on with. And then there's nothing there for when you do your invisible join in the round. There's no tails, there's no knot, there's nothing. You're just starting the way you always would have. So as I was nodding off, thinking about all the different ways to do this, there it is. Melissa, I hope this is a fantastic answer for you. I'm excited about this. I don't know why I had never seen this before. I'm sure somebody out there has always been like, oh, you do this join and then you have an infinite long tail. I always just saw it as this, you do the regular twist around and end up with tails. So I learned something wonderful out of this, and I hope this works for you guys. Please take a look at my previous episodes, because I have the infinite longtail cast on, and I have both of those joins, and they work together like magic. I'm thrilled. So it's in here. It talks about longtail cast on and it talks about joins, but it didn't have them together. Indexing issues, I think. Oh my goodness, that thing's huge. Water, I'm so thirsty. It has gotten really dry in the desert. Okay, also on my list, what have I been doing? Besides thinking about really cool knitting puzzles, I haven't touched my How to Eat an Elephant blanket at all. I'm sorry. I want to, and I need to get back on task with that, or I'm going to be a very old woman when that's done. I cast on a new project, and I think I talked about it in my last episode. It is, make sure I grab the right bag because I have so many different things to show you guys. It is the Byatt Shawl by Carrie Westerman. The pattern is available on Ravelry, and I picked this up, I started doing this because I was inspired by Scott over on Sweet Tea No Shade podcast. Scott, I love you. John, you're hysterical. I love you. I'm a huge fan. Scott was doing this beautiful shawl. He's been knitting on it for quite a while now, and he did it in this lovely red-based variegated and a gold. And the gold was stunning on it. And the pattern had garter stitch and some slip stitches and some lace, and it was really just a beautiful pattern that I saw him present. I popped on over to Ravelry. I found Carrie's pattern. It's fantastic. So, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen all the progress. I've been posting pictures just to keep myself in the right mindset. You start out with this lovely garter. It advances to this really easy and interesting slip stitch where you're only working one color per row at a time and get this wonderful overlapping, beautiful work. And then it goes into a lace, and then from the lace it has a picot bind off, which I'm clearly in the middle of. I'm not even in the middle of it. Watching Scott's most recent podcast, he had finished it, he was showing it off, and he was talking about how relieved he was. He got to the end of the lace and it was time to bind off, and no big deal. I'm with you, Scott. I've done picot bind-offs before, but I have never worked one in fingering weight over 300 some stitches. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It puts this beautiful, delicate little edge here on the lace so that you go from a heavier weight down to a lighter weight to a lighter weight to this delicate edge. It's really a beautiful fade. Wrong word. Beautiful decline of density. There we go. Which is a fade. Anyway, loving it. This went together really fast. It was my travel knitting. It has been my stress relieving knitting. I've been very stressed lately. As you can tell, because I knit this massive shawl in like 2 weeks. But a fun knit, a well-written pattern. I enjoyed it immensely. I think it's lovely because this is the, I'm going to hold this up awkwardly, because this is the long edge. The patterning comes at a diagonal so that when you wear it, swing it around, it becomes infinitely interesting just in how you adjust it, what you bring up, what you bring down, and what's visible. Really a very wearable, very beautiful pattern. I highly recommend it. It is the Byatt Shawl by Carrie Westerman, and it's available on Ravelry. Loving this, and I'm hoping to get this bound off tonight so that I have time to block it because exciting things are about to happen, which I'll get to in a second. I'm working on knocking out another quick hat pattern for you guys, and this one is all kinds of fun because it's knit with a DK weight yarn. It is knit back and forth on straight needles in garter stitch using a short row to make a Watchman's Cap. Because it's done in a DK weight, that means that you have the option of knitting it with two fingerings held together. It's about the same gauge. Tweak your gauge a little bit with your needles, you can make the same thing and really have fun with interchanging colors, whether they're high contrast or complementary or just fun together. You can really play with it. And because this is knit back and forth on the straight needle, it changes up how the yarn lays so that you really get an interesting variegation. And every row is a different length because of the short row shaping. So it constantly changes up. If there's any patterning in your hand-painted yarn, it constantly changes up its position so that it just blends beautifully. I am trying to get this pattern finished up for you guys and get this available in time for Christmas knitting. The joy of it is, it only takes about 5 hours to knock this out. So you need quick gifts for the guys in your family, that one person that's always cold. There you go. I'm hoping to get that knocked out really quick for you guys. So this is exciting, a new pattern, but not nearly as exciting as it's going to get. So you guys have all seen my Addicted to You series. My Addicted to You series is on hiatus. It was really dedicated to simple knitting with big bang results. By simple knitting, I mean a really limited range of stitches. Knit 2 together, there's a cast on, a bind off, generally a yarn over, and sometimes a slip. That's been the whole range of stitches used in my Addicted to You series. And so far there's been 3 patterns released. Addicted to You, Wildly Addicted to You, and Still Addicted to You. Using just that range of stitches. This has been a really fun challenge for me to develop these patterns and just play with how they can be presented using just those stitches. What we can do with them, what the possibilities are. The series has plans to go forward and I'm changing it up a little bit. Adding more fun to it, a little bit more visual pop to it without adding new techniques and harder stitches. So I have a sneak peek for you, which I'm manipulating down below the camera here for you. The sneak peek is of the next one in this series, and instead of doing a scarf or shawl, I guess, I consider them scarves, I'm going to move to a cowl. And the plan is to have 3 patterns of cowls for you in the next set of the series. Now this is not woven in yet, but this is the sample. This is your working side of my next pattern, Madly Addicted to You. Again, I'm using 2 fingering weights, I'm holding them together and I'm knitting them in the round. I have an I cord cast on and bind off, simple stuff, still in the range of those stitches where you only need to be able to knit or slip or knit 2 together. And then you work in the round in what looks like stockinette stitch. But there's a trick. And the trick is that the whole time you're working it, you're creating fringe. You get this wild beast simply using that range of stitches. And you get this fun cowl in the end. I'm going to pop it on for you. That has all kinds of texture and visual interest. I think I have the yarn stuck on my face. It moves, it jiggles, it's fun. I imagine kids on the ski slope would love this. And a really neat extra feature is, if you're out in a blizzard, if you're freezing cold, you can reverse it again. And all those little nubbies are inside and they trap a ton of air. And this thing gets crazy hot fast. It's a really fun piece that you can play with, wear a couple of different ways, and get an amazing visual pop with very small skill set. I'm excited about this, and I have visions of what future ones are going to look like, what the next patterns are going to be. But I haven't started them, I haven't been working on them at all. This really took a back burner to all my other preparation and activities over the past couple months. I have a trip coming up, and I'm excited to share with you what's going to be happening. It's big news. It's big news for me in a lot of different ways. So, next weekend, I'm going to be at Knit Ithaca with Laura Nelkin and Kate Atherley. I am ridiculously excited about attending this. I'm hoping to get a little bit of footage of some of the tour that we're going to do and share it all with you, but this is going to be my first ever knit retreat, and it is with 2 teachers that you can find. They tour all over the place and they teach. Laura has a number of retreats that she offers every year. Both very busy, very talented women, and I'm super excited to go and take classes with them in person versus through the Crosse system. I love Crosse, absolutely, but it'll be so amazing to actually meet them and talk to them. And I have questions and I'm excited and I can't wait to learn. And at the same time, I get to go to beautiful, beautiful Ithaca. I've never been there before, but the pictures I see are so stunning. Laura's got a whole tour planned, and it's going to be great fun. I can't wait to tell you all about it. I can't wait to go. Very excited. After my wonderful retreat, I get to go and visit family. I get to go see my mom and my sister, and that is super cool for me. It has been a couple of years since I've been back home to Maine, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited. And then, because that's not enough, it's like winning the car. And then I will be at Unwound in La Crosse, Wisconsin on November 18th and 19th. And I am over the moon excited about this. This is huge. This is so huge for me. To be able to go to the store that features my yarns in retail is everything. I think that is the coolest thing, and I can't wait to meet you guys in person. So there's this huge takeover. I'm bringing a ton of stuff. I have new yarns, I have new kits, I have the blanks. Come be among the first to actually see them. Very few people have purchased them at this point because they haven't been available. I've been holding out for the store, guys. So I'm so excited to offer this to you guys. I have new colors, I have new bases for you, I have a ton of surprises. Please get with the shop and reserve your spot. We have a breakfast with the monkey. Kate and Carolyn, you guys are fantastic. I love working with you. This is going to be so much fun. Come and meet me. Come and introduce yourself. If you're in the La Crosse, Wisconsin area, get with Unwound Shop. Their website is www.unwoundshop.com. And reserve your space for the breakfast. Find out what we're doing. We're going to have some knitting time. I'm going to have a huge pop-up shop. Go reserve your space. Come meet me. I want to meet you guys so bad. I get to chat with you a little bit here and there. I get messages from you guys. And apparently Carolyn and Kate have a dye monkey along going on with my yarns, with some of my patterns. I can't wait to see what you guys are making. I hope you have the joy of creating something and putting it out into the world, and then having the opportunity to see it, to see somebody with it, to see somebody doing that, to have one of my patterns out there or have one of my yarns made into something beautiful. That is the whole reason I do this. To reach out to you guys, to make that connection, to see that stuff reciprocate is everything. Seeing your pictures of the yarns that you create using my techniques, seeing the end product of my yarns, seeing the end product of my patterns, that's gold. That's everything. And I only had to imagine it. All of this was a dream, an idea. And this is fantastic. So, all of this is coming up over the next week and a half for me. And I am obviously very excited. Okay, so, of course, with any trip, there's a lot of travel. And I am trying to sort out what projects I'll be taking with me and knitting on my travels. I think I have like 9 flights for this big trip. So I think I've got time to make a pair of socks. I'm hoping to knit up a pair of socks, and I think I have time to work on the Embrace cowl. The Embrace cowl is a design by Carolyn Michelle of the Unwound shop. I bought the pattern. I'm so excited. I did miss her Embrace cowl along, and I think I missed it. I'm sorry I'm behind on the group. I've been dyeing yarn. But she did this cowl along, and the results were gorgeous, and I can't wait to knit this. I think it's a really beautiful cowl, and that'll be fun. So socks and a cowl and a lot of packing and a lot of yarn and a lot of travel, and it's going to be a great time. And I can't wait to share it all with you guys later. I think maybe we might get to do a podcast from Unwound. We'll see. That's it. That's the news, and that's what I'm up to, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again next. Because of my trip, it's probably going to be 2 weeks before I get to podcast again, unless I do one from the road. And I'm going to miss you guys, and I'm going to be thinking a lot about you guys and seeing what kind of cool things I get to present to you next time about what I've learned. Have a great time. Have a happy 2 weeks. Enjoy knitting and imagine what else you can do. Bye.